Welcome to the hardest tournament yet. This video contains gameplay of all my matches, with some post-commentary that will discuss interesting decision making and explain why certain things happen, to share my knowledge about this awesome game. My goal for this tournament is to finally get another win, but against 32 players this time, compared to 16 in my previous wins. After losing my chance on first place by one single knockout twice before now, I finally bring the strongest Pokemon, Xerneas, together with my favorite strategies, including Eelektross and Kangaskhan. I'm not going to spoil the tournament results, but the last couple of games are the craziest I think I've ever seen. While the first couple of rounds play out, let's go over my team and plans so you'll have an easier time understanding why I do certain things in the tournament. In the previous regulation that didn't have Xerneas, Eelektross with Life Orb was my lead to immediately set up with Charge and Bulk Up to go for OHKOs, but that's usually not possible anymore, with Xerneas or screens on most teams. It's possible to OHKO Xerneas with Wild Charge after setting up, but far from guaranteed. I really like Eelektross because it's one of the only Pokemon that learns both Charge and another damage boosting move like Bulk Up, and Eelektross is hard to use compared to the no-skill Ampharos. It also has Outrage to turn around its terrible matchup into Garchomp. Trained its EVs with max attack, adamant nature, 228 EVs in HP to make its final stat end on a 9 to make Life Orb deal as little recoil as possible. And the rest in defense, because Eelektross' only weakness is ground, and the physical Earthquake and Druid Run are the most popular ground moves. Instead of Eelektross for a lead now, I use Xerneas as the lead, its main job being to set up screens and force other players to swap before me. In the tournaments before this one, I used Starmie as a screen setter, because it had perfect typing synergy with the rest of its team. But now I've realized that Xerneas tanks super effective hits just as good as Starmie tanks neutral hits, and has better attack. Now I feel forced to use the legendary. Because it has both screens to support the rest of the team, I only have 2 move slots left, which means I don't have room for a stat boosting move like Common Mind or Geomancy. So I'd like to use Life Orb, but Eelektross needs it more. I didn't have much time to test which item I wanted instead, only tested a couple, but the weakness policy actually felt the best to play with, boosting my attack for a long time after getting hit by a super effective move. Because of screens and very high natural bulk, I will easily take a super effective move, and I've seen a lot of Metagross using Bullet Punch and another steel move in order to get rid of the popular Babiri Berry, as well as steel or poison coverage moves on many teams to deal with Xerneas, like Poison Jab on Garchomp, so I actually want to get hit by those weak coverage moves. I decided to try out a physical set with Play Rough as the only fairy move, because it's way too easy to run away and dodge Moonblasts. After thinking for a long time, I decided to use Night Slash as my 4th move, as a way to be able to take on the very popular Metagross, Chandelure and Delphox. And because of Night Slash's short attack time and cooldown, it's great to break Focus Ashes and deal consistent damage on Pokemon that it doesn't have either a good or bad matchup against, to easily win those engagements and force swaps when there are no good targets around. And it's always good to have an element of surprise. I don't think anyone expects either Night Slash or Weakness Policy. Last but definitely not least, we've got Kangaskhan with the same role as Eelektross. To set up with 2 moves, preferably with screens already up, while no one wants to target you because of just 1 weakness each, and then go for 1-hit knockouts. When Kangaskhan swaps in, it will always use Focus Energy into Workup, because Focus Energy got much longer duration. I'm using the Scope Lens item combined with Focus Energy to guarantee crits with every move. Oh, by the way, Kangaskhan is max HP, max attack, adamant, and the legendary tier is also just max attack, adamant, but 140 HP and 116 defense. Not for any specific reason, I just didn't have time to prepare more. And there we see the Poison Jab already from a Garchomp. It's just game 2 of the best of 3 right now, in round 1 of the 32 player tournament. You can see on the left side of the screen which game it is of the best of 3 and how many KOs each player had going into this game. Because the tournament format goes like this. The 2 players with the most KOs after 3 games moves on to the next stage of the tournament. So right here I swap in Kangaskhan. I know that no one will want to target me because I have screens up and only a fighting weakness. This player actually goes for a Focus Blast, but it's not in range, and I would have survived it anyway with the screens up. I immediately use a plus Focus Energy into a Workup. I know that the guy spawning in won't want to target me because of the reasons I just explained, and then I go for a game pact that I know will guaranteed KO the guard jump. But he doesn't know that I'm boosted with both focus energy, a scope lens, and workup, so how would he know I would OHKO in? Here I am out of swaps, that guy had reflect up, so I can't really do anything to anyone here. So what I do is I find the guy in last place and I purposefully get KO'd by him as soon as possible. And if you notice, I actually click outrage just to get that mega energy up. When waiting for the respawn timer, I pay close attention to what other players have out right now. I usually want to respawn with Xerneas to set up screens before I go into my OHKOers. But in this case, I see that it's free to go for setup without screens. The Xerneas is unfortunately just a lot faster than me, so it gets there and KOs the guard jump before I could. But it actually doesn't matter because I still have the charge boost up and the bulk up, so I just go into OHKO the Xerneas instead. Here I was focused on KOing the Delphox, but it mega'd, and then the guard jump comes in with some unfortunate timings from me. Here I can set up without screens because no one is targeting me, which leads to a guaranteed free KO into another KO because the Metagross wasn't expecting the Earthquake so soon after the Giga Impact. Now we're going into the last game, tied for first place, and another player just 1 point behind us, or 1 KO. I get a crit, but kinda doesn't matter, I was gonna force him out anyway. I set up my screens, I know that he's gonna use a setup move, and then I'm already prepared to get closer to the other players and avoid possible incoming attacks. Here shows a reason why I actually don't like running screens that much. So on the opposite side of the map, they were already fighting from the beginning, while we were mostly setting up screens and stuff on our side. Which means one of them will get a KO pretty fast, while we don't do as much. And then the guy who's respawning will come in with full HP Pokemon and swaps. I know I have a guaranteed KO on this Xerneas if I can just corner him and wild charge. He almost gets away actually because of a really well-run U-turn. That's so funny. His U-turn was so good that I almost didn't catch up. He actually swaps in an Ampharos that was low from the beginning of the match when I had pressured it to swap. But then the guard jump used Dragon Rush on me, and when the Dragon Rush landed, I was on top of the Ampharos switch, which made the guard jump get both a KO on me, but also the Ampharos. By the way, it was so fun how me and the other Xerneas was just running beside each other, not wanting to attack the other because it's just kind of griefing and wasting time when we want to get to the third party as fast as possible. But then when the third Xerneas gets the damage boost, we both run away at the exact same time as well. I knew here that the Delphox was going to Mega to dodge the next attacks, so I waited before using my Night Slash, but then I misclick and I don't use the plus move that I meant to use, so I don't KO it. But luckily, it tried to KO something else, so I could still KO it. Here's a good example of how the Night Slash is coming in clutch, with the fast cooldown, I mean. Right when I see the red damage boosts in the middle of the map, I start running straight towards it, and it helps me to not change my camera angle, to better run in a perfectly straight line towards it. The wild charge would have KO'd it there if I didn't use charge, which is why I used charge, because I predicted the Metagross to swap, because the red damage boost gives double damage, the same as charge. Because I spotted the red damage boost and ran straight towards it, I could dare trade with the guard jump through his reflect. As I'm spawning in here, I see that the Xerneas don't have a damage boost, so I assume the guard jump will survive a Moonblast, and therefore when the Xerneas uses Moonblast, I go straight for the guard jump to KO it before the Xerneas can use another move on it. And that should secure my spot into the next round. Here we go into round 2, 16 players left, and 16 players eliminated. I forgot to press the start recording button, so we join in about 30 seconds late into this round, where I just got a KO. By the way, don't use Infestation. It's a really bad move in Free Fire. Look, uses Infestation on me, I just go for the wild charge into another guy to KO it. The Infestation user swaps, but at that moment I already got a KO and got KO'd myself by the fourth guy. Nice tech to use player off on the Goat. I don't think the Pancore player was expecting that. But this is a perfect moment for me. When two people are fighting in close range against each other, I come in with Giga Impact and one-shots both of them, or the one who survived. I really like these kinds of plays where I know that the opponent will swap if they see me start using a move, because they will think I will go for an electric move because it's the obvious choice, right? Instead, I use a setup move to prepare for their swap. This Pangoro player was unlucky by having bad connection to the internet just today. I tried to use Night Slash as late as possible to make the weakness policy proc before my Night Slash hit. I thought it would work, but I guess not. I'm not used to the timings when the weakness policy actually gives me the damage boost. I was out of swaps here, so I didn't have much of a choice. The screen's coming in clutch. My team can struggle into mons like Steelix and Agron, but they are pretty uncommon. I knew that this flipping Infestation player was going to use a move on me there, so I swapped really early. Infestation players always feeding. I like being on the outside of the fight, towards the middle of the map too, so I'm closer to the buff spawns than the other players. I'm waiting before using a move here to use it at the exact right time to get the most value out of it. In a situation like this, good players usually use a setup move instead of trying to KO, because they will expect me to swap. But I like to take advantage of that and attack them while they're setting up, and then swap, or use a screen and then swap. But I started using my screen very too late here. If I used it earlier, I would have been fine. I'm not using any attacks right now because it's not gonna get any value. I know I won't get there in time to pick up the KO. The Goat will of course swap here, because it has bad matchup into both of us. So I use Reflect, and because the Metagross is running away from me right now, I know that my Night Slash won't be able to hit it. Then I'm just waiting for the Charizard to go for a Flare Blitz, so I can try to KO the Metagross at the same time as it, because I know my Night Slash won't be enough to KO, though I barely mistimed it. I'm always trying to keep count of my swaps left. So here I know that I can swap into Xerneas one more time and set up screens, and then swap into either Electros and Kangaskhan once again. Before trying to attack the Metagross with Earthquake into Giga Impact to KO it, I take a quick look around and notice the Pangoro using Fox Energy, which means it has the Scopelands item and will guaranteed crit me, and crits ignore screens, so I know for a fact that the Pangoro will try to KO me, so I try to KO it while it's setting up. And I managed to KO it while surviving its Brick Break, because it didn't have Swords Dance or Bulk Cap up. But the Charizard with the Dragon Rush KOs both me and gets the KO on the Pangoro as well. The Electros Metagross interaction happens a lot, where I've set up Charge and setting up Bulk Up while it attacks me with Heavy Slam or Earthquake, and then I KO it back with the infinite damage while it's Charge. And it's almost always good to trade KOs, because you get one KO, another guy gets one KO, but there's two people that don't get the KO. So if you do that a lot of times, in the long run, you will end on top. That's also why it's working really well to use Electros with Life Orb and Wild Charge. Getting KO'd by all that recoil damage are sometimes just good to respawn at full HP. And sometimes when other Pokemon line up, you can get a double KO, or even triple. When I see Gogoat switching, I remember from when I tested playing with it that it has really terrible physical bulk, so I just go straight for it with my physical moves. At this point I'm kind of just stalling. Because of the short time left and my big lead, it's pretty much impossible that I don't qualify here. Now there's just 8 players left, the round before finals. This is already a finals level lobby. You can tell that this is a high level lobby just by seeing everyone use a setup move as their first move. There's not much new stuff to talk about now that I haven't talked about already. Night Slash's attack time is really fast, right? So I can actually get some chip damage before I swap. The drill round barely hits me and gets a crit, which makes it KO. I seen the Lucario on low HP, so I'm just following it to force it out or get a KO on it. Somehow I didn't see a green full heal, even though I looked around everywhere, I thought. This is a pretty important moment, because right here we can see clearly that the Lucario is Focus Sash and that the Chandelure is Shuka Berry to reduce the ground moves damage. When I'm going for the guaranteed Oak on the Kloitzer, this player gets another crit on me, guaranteeing the KO for them instead. Because of a couple unlucky crits on me, I'm going into game 2 points behind qualifying. Because those two players trade with each other, I need to go for the fourth player. But right as I'm about to KO him, my attack boost from Work Up runs out. Fortunately, he doesn't expect me to be able to use a move so quickly after using Giga Impact, and I get a KO anyway. The Delphox is trying to run away from me, so I can't hit it with Night Slash. But Xerneas is so fast that I can cut him off a little bit and use Night Slash when he's not running in a straight line away from me. And with the fast attack speed of Night Slash, I can barely hit him. If the Metagross doesn't have the blue defense boost here, I'm pretty sure I can 1v1 it because of Reflect Up and the weakness policy proc. Now that the player who was in the lead before this match got 2 KOs right away, I don't think anyone is going to try to KO them, because they're too far ahead. They're basically guaranteed quad now. So it's just up to me now to keep the lead above the 2 people behind me. That's actually a really cool tech by the Lucario player, having Sword Stance, Focus Sash, and both Earthquake and Stone Edge to counter the popular Delphox and Chandelure that will usually think they have a great matchup into the Lucario. I really don't mind that the player in first place gets a high roll with the Focus Blast to KO my Kangaskhan, but it's kinda bad that it feeds the Chandelure. I'm really trying to make my Kangaskhan walk in front of the Chandelure, so that it can't dodge me by just running away. And a huge KO on that guy who was on their way to catch up to me. Going for a guaranteed KO on the Clyetzer, or whatever swaps in, I actually don't do any damage to it. After the tournament I was really confused about it, but shoutouts to that guy, because he explained that if you don't use a move after respawning, you have about 5 seconds of spawn protection. Me and the rest of the community somehow had no idea that that was a thing. I guess no one knew about it, because when everyone spawns in, you always use a move right away if there's someone in front of you, because you always choose a Pokemon to send in that has a good matchup against whatever is in front of you. With the big lead going into this match, over 3rd and 4th place, I make it out easily. Now it's time for finals. Good luck, have fun everyone. Unfortunately, I spawn in right next to one of the only Pokemon that counters my lead. I use Bulk Up, expecting to survive an attack from the Excadrill behind me, and to try to pick up a surprise KO on the Chandelure. I didn't think it would have a plus move yet, and even with a plus move, Drill Run shouldn't KO unless its item is Expert Belt, which it probably is. That's just a really unfortunate crit. With the Reflect up, I guaranteed survived the Iron Head and the Steel Wing. I can only hope that that crit doesn't matter in the end. Another unfortunate thing here is that the Skarmory Mega evolved to protect itself against my attack, only to get killed right after by another guy. We're still somehow keeping up though. Here I am waiting for the Lucario to attack the Xerneas, because it shouldn't be able to OHKO it, so I can go in and steal the KO after. But when I checked the calcs now, if the Lucario gets a lucky high roll, it can KO. Definitely not what I needed right now. Another lucky thing for my biggest competition. That crit definitely didn't matter though. I've realized that this Kloitzer player really likes to run away to dodge attacks, so I really make sure that I'm close enough to the Kloitzer before using Wild Charge, to make sure I reach it. It's always good to wait as long as possible before actually clicking the move you want to use, to make sure that the opponent doesn't switch or something like that. Here's a really good trade for me, but right as I use my move and get KO'd, the red buff spawns. And that red buff, it will destroy me. What's happening here though? Can someone explain this to me? After the guard jump used Earthquake, why does it protect? And then why doesn't it go for a KO on me? That's what I wanted, so I don't get killed by the guy in second place. And then why is it running into the Lucario with Ice Punch when it's low HP too? And from there it just goes downhill. I don't know how to explain this. So now we're somehow going into the last game exactly tied. Whoever gets the most KOs here wins the whole tournament. me and the guy in the first place has such a big lead that it's impossible for the other two guys to catch up, so they've just kind of stopped trying, and therefore they accidentally give out a bunch of free KOs. So now it just seems like a race for us to get the most KOs. This is how I felt during the match. I end up getting another second place. My third second place by 1 KO. If you've made it to the end of the video, comment 1 KO curse, and I'll give you a reminder to subscribe. These tournaments are fun, whatever happens. If you want to get notified when the tournaments happen, I'll leave a link in the description to the content creators Discord server who's hosting them. And have a good one.